All right, we're going to go ahead and get things started. In committee, we're going to open up the hearing on House Bill 2439. And Reviser Abbott, if you'd give us a brief explanation, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, committee members. House Bill 2439 comes to you from the Committee on Federal and State Affairs. The bill would add a new provision of law to the Women's Right to Know Act and would require any facility, clinic, or pharmacy where mifepristone is prescribed, dispensed, or administered for the purpose of inducing a medication abortion to post a conspicuous sign clearly visible to patients and customers. The text of that sign is set out by the bill and states generally that the effects of mifepristone may be reversed, with details included in the text in the bill. The bill also requires the notice to include direction to the Women's Right to Know website required by statute to be published by KDHE, as well as other relevant telephone and internet resources. Except in medical emergencies and at least 24 hours before providing, inducing, or attempting to provide or induce a medication abortion using mifepristone, the bill would require any physician to inform the woman both in writing and either in person or telephone that it may be possible to reverse the effects of a medication abortion that uses mifepristone if the woman so chooses, and that there is information available on the KDHE website and other resources for that purpose. The bill also requires the same information to be provided in writing after dispensing or providing an initial administration of mifepristone. In the case of a medical emergency, the bill would require the physician to inform the woman prior to the medication abortion, if possible, of the medical indications supporting the physician's judgment that an abortion is necessary to avert the woman's death, or that a 24-hour delay would create serious risk of substantial and irreversible impairments of a major bodily function, excluding psychological or emotional conditions. Within 90 days after the bill would become effective, the bill would require KDHE to publish in print and on the Women's Right to Know website comprehensive materials to inform women of the possibility of reversing the effects of a medication abortion that uses mifepristone and information on available resources to that effect. The bill would establish penalties for violation of the act. Upon a first conviction of a violation, it would be a Class A person misdemeanor, and upon a second or subsequent conviction, it would be a severity level 10 person felony. The bill also directs KDHE to assess a fine of $10,000 to any private office, freestanding surgical outpatient clinic, hospital, or other clinic or facility that fails to post the required sign and give the required notice. Each day that a medication abortion, except where necessary to prevent the death of the pregnant woman, each day that one is performed constitutes a separate violation for purpose of that fine. The bill also provides a civil cause of action against a physician who provides a medication abortion using mifepristone in violation of the bill, and that civil cause of action may be brought by the woman to whom the medication abortion was provided, the father of the unborn child who is subject to such medication abortion, or any grandparent of the unborn child if the woman was under 18 years of age or died as a result of the medication of abortion. Would provide for the award of attorney fees and costs to a prevailing plaintiff, or upon a finding that the action was frivolous and brought in bad faith, the award of attorney fees and costs to a prevailing defendant. The bill also directs the court in any civil or criminal proceeding under the bill to rule whether the anonymity of the woman to whom the medication abortion was provided should be protected from public disclosure. The bill also includes a severability provision for the provisions of the bill, and if enacted, the bill would take effect upon publication in the statute book or July 1 of this year. Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there questions for Reviser Abbott? Representative Blue. Welcome to committee, by the way.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to be back. Real quick, is this different than what we've passed in the past?
I don't believe so. I think this is the same as the bill that has passed previously, but I would have to check to confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for Reviser Abbott? All right, seeing none, thank you. Oh, wait a minute, Representative Orpeza.
Okay, so my question is, if we've already have a bill like this, then what are the differences?
I don't think that he knows right now because he doesn't remember what the bills were. So he doesn't have a comparison right now.
Okay, can we get clarity, please?
At some point, probably.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Berquist.
Thank you, ma'am. Most of the penalty phase of this is the result of not giving proper notification to the individual on receiving the mifepristone and the protocol for the rest of the abortion. Is that all? Is that the only thing that produces a penalty, is not giving the specific notification?
Madam Chair, Representative, yeah, so the penalties set out in the bill are for the failure to provide the notice or to post the required signage.
And one follow-up, and that is simply if they don't give notification that there's a possibility of a reversal, not of a guarantee of a reversal, correct?
Correct. The text that is on page 1 of the bill that has to be included in the sign reads, quote, "It may be possible to reverse its intended effect if the second pill or tablet has not been taken or administered. If you change your mind and wish to try to continue the pregnancy, you can get immediate help by accessing available resources."
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there further questions? Representative Clifford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the fiscal note, it says that KDG wants a 1 FTE in order to verify the compliance. Are they not already visiting? I mean, as you know, I'm an eye surgeon. If I had to post that, sunglasses are available for those dilated patients, they have the right to come into my clinic and my surgery center, and they would just see that sign on the wall, and they wouldn't need another FTE to do that. So do you know why they're requesting another FTE for this bill?
Representative, the revisor's office is not involved in the preparation of the fiscal note. That is something done by the Division of the Budget, and in this case, KDHE, the agency involved. So I think they would have to answer your question.
Well, I'll answer my own question. And because of court cases, these types of clinics specifically are not subject to health inspections, unlike a simple eye clinic. So therefore, they would not be present in these clinics. Thank you.
Further questions for Revisor Abbott? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. All right, committee, we have Dr. Jonathan Scrafford, private citizen, coming in virtual. Are you with us, doctor?
Yeah, can you folks still hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time to hear my testimony. My name is Jonathan Scrafford. I was born and raised here in Kansas, and I'm so happy to be serving as an OBGYN here in my hometown of Wichita for the past 6 years. I'll be brief here because I submitted a written testimony as well. Just want to kind of summarize 3 main points. First, women making the difficult decision to undergo a medical termination of pregnancy are almost never informed of the option to reverse the process and continue the pregnancy, even though many of them would avail themselves of the option if they were counseled about it. Providing informed consent about this option is virtually never presented to women beginning the abortion process, and a deeply flawed study from 2020, enrolling only about a dozen patients, has been used to further suppress calls to provide informed consent about this option. Second, the use of progesterone to reverse the effects of mifepristone has been shown to be effective in most cases and safe for the women receiving it. I've seen this in my own experience. I've delivered babies after successful reversal of medical abortion, and I've also reversed abortions at the mother's request of women who went on to deliver with other providers. Even more importantly, the safety and efficacy of abortion reversal with progesterone was demonstrated in what today still remains the largest clinical trial on the topic to date. Finally, although as a physician, I believe that the provision of informed consent is a responsibility which providers should take upon themselves without the need for legislation, as a native Kansan, I also recognize that civil servants such as yourselves serve an important role in ensuring that citizens receiving healthcare in our state have access to important information about options regarding services they're receiving. And in our current state of affairs, they simply aren't receiving that information. So in conclusion, I ask you to consider House Bill 2439, and I'm happy to field any questions that you may have. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. In committee, we are going to ask questions of Dr. Scrafford at this time because he does have to, I believe, get into surgery or somewhere for a procedure. So, Representative Barth.
Hi there, Dr. Scrafford. My question is for you. You mentioned something about the pills being experimental still. Can you describe that a little bit more to us, why they're experimental?
I don't think I mentioned that. Are you referring?
I'm sorry, you said experimental on something then. I thought it was in reference to the medication.
I don't remember mentioning them as being experimental.
Okay. Never mind then.
All right. Representative Orpeza.
Thank you, Dr. Scrafford, for coming today to testify. I have a few questions, especially on the research that you've provided. The first with the medical abortion reversal science and politics meet. In that I read that, and in the conclusion, it actually states that the efforts to mandate that physicians inform women about the medically unproven therapy not only poses risk to women's health, but also undermines the physician-patient relationship. Do you have some comments on that?
Yeah, so that was from, I believe, a published editorial from a couple years ago. That's not my opinion. That was the conclusion made in that editorial. It's not an opinion that I would share. In my opinion, fully informing every woman going through a procedure like this of an option that many of themselves would avail themselves of if they knew it existed does not threaten the patient-physician relationship. In fact, I would say that informing every woman of options that we know many of them would potentially choose is something that we should offer to every woman. So that's an opinion from a published editorial that I wouldn't share that same opinion.
Okay. So then my follow-up question to that would be, you're implying that there are healthcare providers that do not provide informed consent?
Depending on how you frame informed consent, I would say that could be argued, yes, in the sense that the option to reverse the process is something that has been studied and in the largest clinical trial to date has been shown to be both safe and effective. I would argue that the framework of informed consent would compel physicians to, as a result of that known research, offer it to every patient, or at least to inform them that the option exists. I would argue that that would be part of informed consent, and currently it's not being provided.
Follow-up.
Okay, one more, because we got others to get to.
Okay. And then, so the case series that you're detailing successful reversal effects of mifepristone using progesterone, that was a case series, correct? And
Correct.
Not a randomized controlled trial.
Correct.
And on the hierarchy of evidence, it's very low and can provide bias on evidence-based practice.
So every form of study has potential to provide bias. In general, randomized control trials are better for certain types of interventions to study, although not every intervention. I would argue that the idea of abortion reversal is not a question that is well suited to randomized control trial for a variety of reasons, but mainly because in the randomized control trial that has been done on this study, they recruited only women who did not desire reversal. In a case like this, I would argue that other forms, including case control, as long as it's prospective, would be better suited to answer the question because you would need to recruit a group of people who desire reversal. I would argue that there are potential ethical problems with randomizing either a group of people who don't want reversal or a group of people who do want reversal. So in other words, only certain clinical questions are best addressed with a randomized control trial. I wouldn't say that that's universally the best form of study to answer every clinical question.
All right, Representative Bergquist.
Thank you, Doctor, for your testimony. As a doctor, if you were asked by a patient, a woman, to be able to get help in becoming pregnant and what treatment you might give her, would one of those possibilities be to administer progesterone to her?
Sorry, are you referring to becoming pregnant?
Yeah, yes. If the patient was coming to you saying she's having difficulty getting pregnant, they want to have babies, would they come, and would one of those treatments be to administer progesterone?
Potentially, it would depend. There are a few causes of infertility that I would find progesterone particularly helpful for in achieving pregnancy. Progesterone is more typically helpful either in preventing miscarriage or, in this case, reversing abortion. It's not a treatment I would generally use for the purpose of achieving pregnancy, although there are a few exceptions.
Okay, and so just in brief then, the progesterone being administered as part of this protocol that is being, the patient's being let known about, that progesterone is simply to allow the body to produce progesterone again, or to be able to have it when the mifepristone has depleted the body of being able to produce it. Is that correct?
Correct. Mifepristone acts primarily by suppressing the activity of progesterone in the body, and progesterone is essential for the healthy continuation of pregnancy. So the purpose of providing progesterone is to try to overcome that suppression effect of mifepristone.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Doctor. I have a few questions for you. The study that you referenced, was that the study conducted by Delgado et al. That's referenced in your testimony?
Yes.
Thank you. Was that study overseen by the Institutional Review Board? And did the people who were participating in that study, did they consent to participate?
I believe so. Off the top of my head, I don't know which IRB that they used, but I believe so. I could double check for you. And to the second question, my understanding is that yes, the patients agreed to that. Again, those are both things that I can check and get back to you, because off the top of my head, I don't know what the recruitment process was for it.
Okay, if you could get that info, that'd be great. It's my understanding that neither of those things were true. So if we could get clarification, that would be appreciated. Yeah. And then my second question was that study peer-reviewed, and has it been replicated?
It was peer-reviewed, but to my knowledge, it has not been replicated.
And then is this abortion reversal, is it FDA approved?
No, the use of progesterone for this is off-label.
Is mifepristone
Okay,
FDA
Representative,
approved?
this will be your last question.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Is mifepristone FDA approved?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of the doctor? All right, seeing none. Thank you, doctor, very much for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, I have Jeannie Gowden, Director of Government Relations, Kansans for Life. Welcome to committee, Jean.
Thank you, Chairwoman Landwehr, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 2439. I'm Director of Government Relations, Jean Gowden, with Kansans for Life. Abortion decisions are driven by a variety of motives, with conflict and ambivalence common, and the Kansas Legislature has long been committed to providing full and accurate medical information about abortion prior to the decision, and that needs to be updated to include the timely notice of the possibility of a chemical reversal option. There is no acceptable reason that women who begin an abortion pill regimen and change their minds should be denied information about current protocols for abortion pill reversal, also known as APR. In Kansas, nearly 68% of abortions are medication abortions using the regimen of 2 doses of the different pills, mifepristone and misoprostol. Increasingly, a significant number of women who have ingested the first set of pills change their minds about using the second set and have sought APR to save their babies. Since 2012, the Abortion Pill Rescue Network and its more than 1,200 medical professionals has assisted women in 77 different countries in all 50 states in the U.S., and more than 4,000 babies have been saved using APR. The published studies on APR show an approximate 64 to 68% success rate in situations where only the first abortion pills are ingested, and that's compared to 23% for doing nothing. Supplemental hormones have been used for decades as a bona fide treatment for women struggling with infertility or pregnancies prone to miscarriage. However, it's logical that most women who are choosing abortion pills are not aware of the role of supplemental hormones assisting pregnancy, as would those women who have consulted their physicians to overcome infertility and miscarriage to achieve a birth. See, the idea of reversing a first-stage medication abortion with the standard regimen used for treating threatened miscarriage was initiated by pro-life OBGYNs who were well-versed and the efficacy of hormonal supplementation. And one of these medical pioneers, Dr. Matthew Harrison, has submitted written testimony in support of HB 2439. I encourage you to consider what he says in his testimony. In addition to that, the APR is strongly supported by the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. Since there's a short window of time for treatment, women need to know about APR before the abortion as part of giving full consent. They need to know inside the facility prior to the procedure in case there is continued ambivalence about the abortion decision, and then with paperwork sent home by the abortionist. So no matter why women change their minds after beginning an abortion by pills, they deserve all the information normally available to other women receiving medical help in maintaining pregnancy until delivery. And since 1998, the KDHE has provided abortion-informed consent materials and the toll-free number for women to get more information, which can be found at the womensrighttoknow.org website. Most abortion appointments are made online or by phone. And the abortion providers do have information on their consent forms online that reference those women's right to know materials. So I just ask, I think it's important, this is not a unique thing to have signage in the abortion facilities, because already there are signs required stating that doctors are regulated by the Board of Healing Arts, and if there's any concerns or complaints, patients may contact them. And finally, that women, it's illegal to be coerced into an abortion. There's state agencies available to help them. So I ask for the committee to please pass 2439 out favorably. And I did include from the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs their statement from 2019 on abortion pill reversal and why they support the protocol.
All right, thank you, Jeannie. We'll go with our next conferee, and then we'll come back to you. Next, we have Brittany Jones, Director of Policy and Engagements, Kansas Family Voice. Welcome to committee, Brittany.
Good afternoon, committee, Chairwoman Landwehr, and members of the committee. My name is Brittany Jones. I'm the Director of Policy and Engagement for Kansas Family Voice. We represent thousands of families who are concerned about ensuring women receive all information that they need during the abortion process. So we thank you for the opportunity to share with you our reasons for supporting HB 2439. When undergoing any medical procedure or taking any new medicine, the medical community provides the patient with all the risks, the likelihood of successes, and possibilities. It's why medical ads have such long, little, hurried information that they provide on anytime you're watching TV. But why is abortion the exception to this rule? Why is the abortion where we carve out and say that women don't get information? HB 2439 will close this loophole and close this gap in information to ensure that women are getting all the information about any options they may have if they do choose to attempt to reverse their abortion. We see that, as Jeannie just said, that abortions by pill are nearly 2/3 of the method that a woman is receiving an abortion by in Kansas currently. And this is a huge new development. This is a new development in Kansas over the last probably 5 to 6 years, where we've seen this growth in this method of abortion. And so a lot of our informed consent laws are not meeting women in this space. They're mainly directed towards a more classical abortion, a surgical abortion. But women need this information for this new form of abortion. 29 states, including Kansas, have abortion-specific informed consent laws. We are one of those states. And so this is simply, as Jeannie said, an addition to our current statute. 14 other states have passed similar laws to HB 2439, and they just enhance this information that women have. And so as the use of abortion by pills rise, it's even more important than ever that women have access to all their options. This is a simple way to ensure that they have this access. And we encourage you to join other states in ensuring that women have access to critical information as they make important medical decisions like abortion. So I ask that you report HB 2439 out favorably, and I stand open for questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Brittany. All right, committee, that's all we have on verbal proponents. We do have written-only testimony from Dr. Lisa Gilbert, private citizen, Lucretia Node, policy specialist, Kansas Catholic Conference, and Dr. Matthew Harrison, private citizen. So do we have questions for Jeannie or Brittany, committee members? Representative Haswood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think any one of you can answer my question, but do we have any data on, women feeling like they're not informed or regretting using this medication? And also, my second question is, why can grandparents be a part of the, I think, suing? And does the father of the unborn child include rape and incest?
You get to choose which one of you want to answer it. You're not doing rock, paper, scissors back there, are you?
I am not an attorney. So, several questions. Which one should I start first? Yeah, there have been many studies done. I don't have those included in my testimony, but I am happy to get those for you, Representative Haswood, where women have, and I believe it's about 60% in one particular study that showed women did feel coercion into having their abortion procedure, whether that is from their partners, it could be from their parents, it could be any family members, friends, and then society. Because a lot of women do feel unsure about what they want to do, and so their fears oftentimes are compounded, and they're told, we can take care of the problem, have the abortion, you'll never think about it again, etc. And so, yeah, there are studies, but the point is to avoid that, and how do you avoid that is by giving these women full information. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee, but once again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are a woman who is experiencing miscarriages and you want to be able to carry a child to term, your OBGYN will tell you about the therapy he can use, whether that's progesterone or one of the other supplemental hormones, to be able to save your child. And so it's when a woman is selecting abortion, she doesn't know about that. She's choosing to have an abortion. She's pregnant. She's not trying to maintain the pregnancy when she decides to have the abortion pills. And so she would not know about the possibility of being able to save that child if she changes her mind. And so it's just all about empowering her with everything that she needs to know. It's not about what the abortion provider wants to tell her. It's about what she, as a reasonable patient in same or similar circumstances, has a right to know.
And I want to scrap my other two questions, but I have another one, if I may, Madam Chair. I think this medication is used for miscarriage. Is there a difference between abortion and miscarriage, or is a miscarriage kind of lumped into abortion even though the fetus might be inviable?
No, according to the definition of abortion, it would be to terminate the pregnancy, knowing that the result will be the death of the unborn child. And so miscarriage is when the child has already passed.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Orpesa?
So my question is, again, are we stating that healthcare professionals do not provide all risk and benefits of medication, and we're lumping everybody into a category? Is that correct? That we're stating that healthcare professionals are not doing their due diligence in our profession?
What we're saying and what this bill does is empower women, because women have testified many times over the years what they were told and what they were not told. And the women who have sought help from the abortion pill reversal have said when they changed their minds and went back to the abortion clinic, they were told nothing could be done. They were not told ahead of time that if you change your mind, here's where you can go to get help, a toll-free number, a website, whatever. It's up to them. Women have said they've had to Google trying to find out, how do I reverse my abortion? And so what this is all about is the women and what women deserve to know before they make that decision. And the physician has an obligation to tell them. But what we're hearing is from women who have had this happen is that they were not being told. And so they did find a provider to help them with the abortion pill reversal protocol. And that's where they were able to save their babies. But it wasn't because they were told ahead of time, and they were told that it could not be done when they returned to the clinic.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, one more, Representative
Okay.
Orpeza.
Is there an actual reversal protocol?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of it from the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs. I have a copy of their protocol.
Why don't you send that to Dave, and we'll make sure that the committee members get it.
And are
Will
they?
do. Oh, Representative Reese.
Jeannie, with the informed consent and giving the woman all the information that is needed, is part of that also talking about the risk of hemorrhaging?
Whatever the risks are of making the abortion decision is what the providers are supposed to tell, and you can find all of that on the Women's Right to Know website. So,
I'm
or you
directing that to the reversal, that there is a extreme high risk of hemorrhaging.
As with any option, yes, it's first of all, APR is not guaranteed, and second of all, yes, they should. When the women contact the providers who do APR, they would certainly be told that.
I've not seen that in everybody seems to be avoiding the fact that there's a really high risk of hemorrhaging with trying to do the reversal. And that's why I was asking. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Committee, are there further questions? Representative Orpeza, did you have one more?
I did have one more question. Is the reversal protocol recognized by the American Academy of OBGYN Association?
That I do not know.
Or just by the group that you're representing?
Well, I'm not representing the APLOGs. I do not know. All I know is that the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs, which has over 7,000 members, is very supportive of that and the science behind it.
All right, committee, are there further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, committee, we have, my paper turned around here. Opponents chose to provide written-only testimony. We have Katie Bailey, Director of Legislative Affairs, Planned Parenthood, Great Plains Votes. Dr. Angela Martin, private citizen. Dr. Valerie French, private citizen. Rebecca Tong, Co-Executive Director of Trust Women Foundation. Seeing no further discussion on that committee, we will close the hearing currently on House Bill 2439. Without objection, we will now work House Bill 2439. Representative
To object.
Just a minute. You object?
Yes.
All right. And it's what, 2/3 that have to object? Or 2/3? 2/3 to approve. So we'll go ahead and take a vote with that. So, no, 2/3 to approve working the bill. So the ayes would be to approve working the bill, and the noes would be to oppose working the bill. All right, and we'll just do it by hand so we don't have to do a voice and raise our hands anyway. So if all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Yep. Is that what you guys got? Yep. Opposed, no. Raise your right hand. I'm sorry. Raise your right hand. 5. So 11-5. Motion passes. All right. So now we're going to work House Bill 2439. Discussions, comments? Representative Epley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move that we pass House Bill 2439 favorably for passage as presented today.
You've heard the motion by Representative Epley, seconded by Representative Bueller. Discussions, comments on the motion. Representative Orpeza.
I have a few comments about the motion. There has been an attempted randomized control trial, which if you look at the pyramid that I passed out earlier, that's on a higher level of evidence-based practice. without bias, and it gives us a higher quality of evidence. There was a trial tried in January of 2020 that unfortunately had to be stopped because of hemorrhage. They initially had planned to enroll 40 patients in a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized trial to see about the safety and efficacy of methylpristone antagonists with a high dose of oral progesterone, which is what we've been talking about, the quote-unquote reversal agent. And they unfortunately had to stop this because they had a third hemorrhage and were only able to enroll 12 patients for this randomized control trial. I really think we need to think about what we're doing here and the safety in the state of Kansas that already has a very questionable maternal outcome when it comes to pregnancy. And those would be my comments. Thank you.
All right. Further questions or comments on the motion? Representative Bryce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just point out that those who do not take abortion pill reversal essentially have 100% have hemorrhaging. So thank you.
Thank you. Further comments, questions? Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In response to the last comment, I would say that mifepristone and medication abortion is 98% effective and safer than a colonoscopy. I would also say that, from the evidence today, I think it's clear that this isn't a scientifically proven practice. There's been one study that in my mind was, unethical, and they weren't held accountable by an institutional review board, and it hasn't been peer reviewed or replicated. So on top of that, it's not supported by any major medical associations in the United States. So I think the misinformation we're providing is saying that this is possible when in reality that's not scientifically proven, and in fact it can have serious negative consequences, including hemorrhaging for the women who do this. So I think this is a really bad idea, and it's just allowing state-mandated deception and further stigmatization of abortion when this is a safe procedure. Thank you.
Well, and I think, Representative, there's some questions that we need to get answers to, because a piece of information that I actually have shows that in the controlled studies, which also use placebos, is that the hemorrhaging occurred with the placebos as well. So I think we're going to, between now and the time that this would be to hit the House floors, that we would get further and more of that information. I somewhat take objection to being told that we are passing legislation that is totally misleading, because I don't believe it is. It doesn't give any guarantees in this that it will actually reverse it. It gives a possible option. So that concerns me a little bit. Further questions or comments? Representative Blue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to note that if this was truly bad legislation, I find it interesting that the opponents just submitted written testimony and did not come testify orally in front of this committee. Thank you.
I would probably have to agree with that, Representative Blue. Apparently they didn't see it as that big of a threat. Representative Epley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For some of you on this committee, you've seen this bill before. We had it in 2019. For the new people, this is new to you. There was, I thought, abundant evidence then that showed that this was reasonable and prudent for women who are at a very vulnerable period of their pregnancy when they're considering abortion and unsure, and start the process and choose to reverse it. There was a lot of information then. There's a lot more information now that supports the utilization of this method. This has been done commonly, historically, in medicine for years for pregnancy maintenance when you do progesterone rescue, albeit in different forms and different methods. But this is certainly not that unusual, not that atypical, and it does provide a modicum of hope for those women that are at a vulnerable time in their pregnancy. And again, I want to remind the body that's here today that this came within one vote of a veto override proof. Within one vote, we had 82 votes, and we did have a veto override in the Senate. So it would have been already in place for 3 years had we passed it in 4 years had we passed it in 19. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further comments or question on the motion? Representative Berquist and then Representative Haswood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The consideration that we made in committee back in, I believe it was 19, we had full discussion and full hearing in this committee, and also on the floor we had ample debate. We also had the benefit, as the doctor, as the representative has said, of a number of more years of good results evidenced since that time. It was easy for me to understand that, the doctors would probably understand it better from a standpoint of science, and that is that a double-blind study against a person who is asked to be able to save their baby would be a cruel thing, because you would be giving them a placebo or something real for something they ask for an absolute opportunity to save their baby. So a double blind would be really hard to come up with, I do believe, because if you did, you'd be saying, I'm going to trick somebody in order to find out scientifically whether this is true. And that would result in probably fewer babies saved for sure with the placebo. So I'm honored to support this bill again, and I hope that we are able to prevail. Thank you.
Representative Haswood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to echo the comments made by my previous colleagues about the text that's going to be required of this bill. I don't feel confident in what we were provided by proponents today that this is accurate, medically safe, and I'm confused on why. I have concerns on people who can violate this, father of the unborn child, for folks who are pregnant under 18. What does that mean in the instance of rape and incest? These folks don't have typically the best in mind for the person who is pregnant. And I agree, this is a very vulnerable state. And hearing from today, I think the underlying cause is that, we are not, as a state, doing a good job at informing pregnant people of their options, of their care. I don't think sex education is required in schools. A comprehensive, unpolitical bias data. And, I agree that, if someone were to become pregnant, it's a very vulnerable position, but also that we as a state are failing people, all people, right? It takes two to tango. 1 + 1 = 3 to provide all the options that we have in today's modern medicine. So I will be opposing this. Thanks.
Further questions or comments on the motion? Representative Vaughn.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer a conceptual amendment.
Okay.
The amendment would be in line 26 of page 1 of the bill to modify the required statement that would be on these posters, and to add one sentence to say,
what line are you looking at?
This is line 26 on page 1 of the bill.
Okay, it would be in addition to, or?
Yes, in addition to the provided statement.
All right.
And it would say abortion reversal is not FDA approved and may have side effects, including hemorrhaging.
Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Reese. Discussion, comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion carries. Back on the bill. Motion fails. Failed. On the amendment, on the Vaughn amendment. Further questions, comments on the bill? Representative Reese.
It'll be no surprise that I will be voting no to this bill. And it's for all of the things that many people have talked about, that the bill isn't very clear about what can also happen with the hemorrhaging. And this is not a guarantee. Also agreeing with the amendment that Representative Vaughn proposed, but I understand that I am not in the majority, so I won't be supporting this bill.
Representative Orpeza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And for my final comment, I would just like to say I believe this interrupts the patient healthcare provider relationship, calls into doubt that we are not explaining things from a healthcare professionals in its entirety, gives some doubt of what we take into that clinic area and what we discuss with our patients. And unfortunately, I feel this is going to lead to more issues and doubting of the healthcare profession than it actually does of any good. And these days, being a healthcare provider, we are always up against the web and social media, and then just having one more poster to fight is unfortunate. And thank you.
Further questions, comments on the motion? Representative Bueller, and then was it Representative Clifford? Okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on that. I think that I don't see this as providing confusion or doubt. In fact, I see it exactly the opposite. I think there's an obligation for our medical community to provide the range of options and treatment in this situation. So, if anything, by not providing this information, it's withholding, and it's withholding information from a patient about their range of choices, and that's how I see it. And that, to me, is not right. Thank you.
Representative Clifford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since I'm still in active practice, I just want my colleagues to know, that in the room, consent is important between the physician and the patient, or another type of healthcare provider and a patient. For me, I always start consent out with, you don't have to do this, because I always want that on the table with patients. And I am supportive of this because I think it does provide incentive to have the conversation and to list all the options. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further comments or questions? All right, seeing none, Representative Epley, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I close.
Who was the second? Bueller. All right. You've heard the motion by Representative Epley, seconded by Representative Bueller. All in favor of advancing House Bill 2439, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion carries. Bill passes.
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote. Ready, Dave?
Recorded vote.
Noes.
No.
Representative Bond. Representative Hasswood. Representative Reese, Representative Boyd, and Representative Orpeza. Anyone else wish to be recorded? All right. Seeing none. Closed. All right, committee, now we're going to turn our attention to, now that I just hid my agenda, or did you steal it from me?
I didn't steal it.
Are you sure you didn't steal it?
2452.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now we're going to open up the hearing on House Bill 2452, and we'll have an explanation by Revisor Abbott. I'm sorry, I insulted you, didn't I? We like our revisor a lot. That was bad. That's right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello again, committee members. House Bill 2452 comes to you from the Committee on Appropriations. The bill would eliminate the requirement for the state employee health care benefits program that the program offer long-term care insurance and indemnity insurance. Section 1 of the bill is eliminating a reference in current law to the long-term care insurance. The bill would also repeal the 3 statutes that establish that requirement in law for the State Employee Health Care Commission to offer that insurance coverage. If enacted, the bill will take effect upon publication in the statute book, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for Revisor Abbott? Representative Orpeza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is on line 30. What agencies that they said that they're going to take funding from agencies that doesn't? What agencies does that include?
So that is existing law. That would be each state agency, I think, that participates in the state employees health care plan.
Now, just remember, Representative, every time we open up a statute, and this here is actually deleting language, they have to print the statute, so we're only deleting a section of that. So this here would, its current law would remain current law.
Okay.
If that helps.
Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. Appreciate it, Abbott. All right, we have proponent Adam Prophet, Secretary, Acting Department of Administration. Welcome to committee. Are you done yet?
I'd be happy to be done. I take a beating in this room on occasion, so it's all right.
Hey, we're nice in here.
I didn't say it was this committee.
Oh, you're blaming us approach people. I got it. Yeah.
I should
Wait
probably
till
hurry
you
up
come
here.
back this week.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Adam Prophet. I'm the Acting Secretary of Administration for the state of Kansas. I'm also here today as the chair of the State Employee Health Care Commission, representing the wishes of that chair. As the revisor stated, all that this bill would do would be to repeal the requirement that the state employee health plan offer long-term care insurance. This is really just kind of an issue of shifting market dynamics. And what I mean by that is when the requirement was put in place many years ago, there was a rather robust market for long-term care insurance. There was a lot of options available for the Healthcare Commission to go out there and contract with bidders and provide this as a benefit to state employees. That market has shifted such that we're not getting many bidders, and there's not a very good market out there, candidly, and it's not being taken advantage of. So what this statute would do would allow the commission to choose to not offer this voluntary long-term care insurance to state employees as part of the state employee health plan. A couple of things to keep in mind. Again, this is completely voluntary. Number two, anybody who currently has long-term care insurance that they've acquired through the state employee health share insurance plan will continue that coverage should they so choose. This does not remove that from those that have it. The only thing it would do was instead of having a payroll deduction, they would not have to direct pay the vendor with which they have coverage. Also, the state does not provide subsidies for long-term care insurance, so this is not an increase in cost for those that want to keep it. They're paying 100% of the cost today. They will pay 100% of the cost tomorrow. It's just they will direct pay instead of having a payroll deduction. Other than that, there aren't really any other changes. Again, just removing the requirement for us to do it. Those that have it today can continue to keep it with guaranteed renewals in perpetuity should they so choose. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions? Representative Ellis. Epley, Ellis, you're both E's. So.
Somewhere. Thank you, Chair. So this is just a cost savings?
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're on the commission as well. No, sir, it's just a recognition that we're not getting many bidders and many vendors, and not a whole lot of folks are taking advantage of it. So we're just removing the requirement for the state to offer this. I don't believe this precludes the state from offering it in the future. Should we find that there's a sufficient number of vendors that are willing to do it, there's no cost savings to the state. There's no cost increase to the state. There's no cost savings to the employees. There's no cost increase to the employees.
So the people that have it will continue having it. So there's vendors for them, right?
Correct. If they have a plan today, long-term care insurance, they have the option to continue that insurance in perpetuity with guaranteed renewals. The only thing that changes for those individuals that have it is that right now we offer a payroll deduction, so we'll take money out of their paycheck and send it to the vendor. Going forward, they would just have to direct pay like you do with your car insurance or anything else.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there further questions? Representative Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just trying to understand. So you're saying that there are not many, when you go out for bids, you're not getting much response. Is that correct? So
that's correct. And to be fair, I've been on the commission for about 3 months now. So
okay. So I'm just wondering, what's the downside? So right now you're saying that employees can go out and buy these similar products on the open market themselves. So what's the downside of continuing to have it offered as an option, full cost, as it is now? I'm just curious.
Yeah, if I may, Madam Chair, I think the benefit of removing the statutory language is that right now we are required to offer it, and with a very narrow market and not many players in the game, it could put us in an unenviable position when it comes time to negotiate. Should the market change and open back up and there's more bidders and more vendors, we could revisit. But right now, if there's a requirement for the state to offer it, there's only one player offering that, it's not a very good negotiating stance for us to be in. And if not many employees are taking advantage of that right now, it doesn't seem to be something that's got a high uptick rate.
So can I follow up? So the problem would be that it would be something that you could continue to satisfy the statute by offering it, but the price would be very high because of the reasons that you mentioned. Is that the problem, I guess?
Well, again, the state has no subsidies in here, so it's not a state cost, but it's just a narrowing of the market. And with a narrow market, having a requirement to offer something that is a diminishing market, the commission felt that it was prudent to go ahead and take this measure and take the stance that we should remove that requirement from statute.
Okay, thank you. I guess I don't understand the real problem we're solving, but thank you.
And I'll try to help here a little bit. Back when this was actually done, at that time, the benefit of the state having this group plan was guaranteed insurability. So the employee, irregardless of their health care, could qualify. That was the big benefit of, but now companies do not provide that particular benefit in their group plans. You know, I take a little bit offense to what Adam said, is that there is a market out there for long-term care. It's a different market, and there's no point at this time to require the health care plan to make sure that they have a vendor, but it doesn't mean that in the future that they can't have that option, because there are different types of products out there. There's different types of ways of doing the group plan. It probably just needs to be revisited. But this takes that obligation off so that they don't have to go out there and search and spend the time and the money to do that. And I am one of the commissioners on there, so I did agree with that. Further comments or questions? Representative Reese.
Adam, do you know how many employees now have paid into long-term?
Yes, ma'am. Under the current vendor, we have 845 employees, 587 policies issued for long-term care insurance, and 258 policies for life insurance with long-term care riders have been issued. And under the previous vendor, there were 1,750 employees. And I'd be happy to provide this information. It was part of the commission meeting from the last meeting.
That would be helpful, because that seems like a lot of people that are still on it.
Yeah, and again, as a reminder, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but they would still have the option to continue this in perpetuity. They would not lose their coverage as a result of this.
I may have another question. I'm kind of wondering about insurance. It's such a sticky thing, because you don't need it till you need it, but you pay into it forever, and you can't recoup any of the money put in there. So I guess I would be worried about, being as a state employee and then you have long-term care insurance. It feels like it's a secure thing. And so the state moving away from it, it feels like the guardrails are gone. And a person might be out there, wondering about, okay, well, now what do I do? Now do I decide to go ahead and stick with it, or do I look for another vendor? But then you're starting all over again. So I can understand why some people might be a little uneasy about this.
Well, the company that they have their product through would still be out there and able to answer their questions. So they'd be able to talk to them, or they could possibly go out and try to find an agent that carries that particular product. The product is still viable. It's not that it's a bad product or that the HCC is saying, no, long-term care is a bad idea. It's just that in the statute, and like I said, the reason that this was originally done was at the time, an state employee could purchase long-term care, which a private sector person could not, in a group plan, irregardless of their health care, of their health status at the time. That no longer exists out there. There's still group plans that businesses buy. It's just structured different. This would give the flexibility for HCC to maybe look at something like that down the road, but it takes this here that's just means they'd have to spend the time, and I would assume there's probably some money running through an RFP process and the whole 9 yards. But this wasn't about saving money. It was just pulling this off because it's not viable for them to spend the time or any amount of money, irregardless of what it was. But it doesn't change what the employee has. They still own this policy because it was an individual policy. It wasn't part of the state. It's not like if you quit being a state employee that you lose this long-term care. As long as you pay your premiums, it's yours. It goes with you. Representative Barth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, I think I heard you say there were like 845 employees that have participated in the long-term care insurance, and then was it 547 policies, and how many different vendors? Did you say how many vendors?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you for the question, Representative. So 845 employees with a current vendor. I broke that down into two subgroups of how they were broken out. So 845 is the key number there. Under the previous vendor, 1,750 employees.
Okay. I know you said there's a payroll deduction that happens. Are we then remitting those payments and then sending a file to those couple different vendors still today? Is that what's happening? So are we looking to eliminate an administrative burden for the state as well?
I don't know that is the intent behind it necessarily, but yes, that would eliminate the need for us to remit payment to those vendors and to issue the file as well. It would be incumbent upon the employee to do that themselves.
And that's very typical in the industry for that as well. Thank you.
And I think that the HCC will be very good about working with everybody and making sure that they get properly notified, et cetera, and stuff. And like I said, as a fellow commissioner on this board, I was in full support of it, and I do understand long-term care insurance products. Representative Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for not knowing this, but does the individual pay, the state pays, or is it a matching fund for this long-term care?
No, there are. Yeah. So I want to make sure we've got the State Employee Health Care Director back here. There are zero state subsidies with a long-term care insurance. It's 100% employee paid. The only benefit right now is that the employee pays it by way of payroll deduction.
So if this stops, they can get another policy and it's still the same money. It's their money.
They can renew their policy as it stands today in perpetuity.
No, the new people. Instead of, they would have to pay either to the state or a new policy if it was.
They could keep if I had long-term care insurance today, and I am sorry if I'm not understanding the question, and the commission if this body agreed and the commission took away the requirement, next year I would still have the option to have that long-term care insurance. I would then pay the company that is offering that insurance, not have a payroll deduction.
So there's no matching fund. It's all individual.
Correct.
Thank you.
Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Profit. And I apologize if I missed this. I wanted to follow up on Representative Ruiz's question. So you talked about the total enrollment, but do you know what the annual average enrollment is for each of these insurance policies recently, if you have any?
I don't believe I've got more than the last couple of years with me, but again, that's something that we could easily pull and get back to you.
What were the last couple of years? Is that the?
That was the 845 and the 1,750.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, committee, that will take and close the hearing on House Bill 2452. And now, without objection, we will work House Bill 2452. Representative Epley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move that we pass out House Bill 2452 favorably for passage.
Is there a second? Second by Representative Blue. Comment, questions, discussion? I guess comment and discussion is the same thing, isn't it? I just like to repeat myself. All right, seeing none. Representative Epley, you may close.
I close, Madam Chair.
All right, you've heard the motion by Representative Epley to advance House Bill 2452, seconded by Representative Blue. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. All right, committee. This will conclude our business for today. We do have a informational hearing tomorrow on Senate Bill 282, and then we will also have a hearing on, is it Senate Bill 96? And we'll have a hearing on Senate Bill 96, actually without testimony, because it will become a vehicle for Senate Bill 282. So we're adjourned until 1:30 tomorrow.